The wilderness, vast, unforgiving, and terrifyingly unknown. For centuries, people have ventured into the depths of forests, mountains, and desolate landscapes, only to come back with chilling tales of what lurks in the shadows. Some never return at all. From eerie whispers in the night to unexplained creatures watching from the dark. These are the top 10 scariest encounters in the wilderness. And you might want to think twice before your next camping trip. So gather round, turn down the lights, and prepare to be plunged into the heart of darkness. Because tonight, we're venturing into the unknown. And trust me, you don't want to go there alone. Our first story takes us deep into the remote backwoods of Maine, where two brothers, Mark and Jake, were on a hunting trip. As the sun began to set, they stumbled upon a small, abandoned-looking cabin nestled amongst the trees. The cabin itself was small, with a single window and a rickety wooden door. It looked like it had been abandoned for years, but as they approached, they noticed something strange. Smoke. Someone had recently used the fireplace. Cautiously, they pushed open the door, and what they found inside sent chills down their spines. The fireplace was burning, casting a warm glow on the dusty interior. But there was no one there. Our next encounter takes us to the misty peaks of the Great Smoky Mountains, where a young woman named Sarah was on a solo camping trip. She had been hiking all day, enjoying the solitude of the wilderness, and as dusk settled, she set up camp near a secluded stream. On the second night, Sarah woke with an unsettling feeling. It was subtle, a prickle on the back of her neck like she was being watched. As she was breaking down her tent, she noticed something strange in the damp earth nearby. Footprints, they weren't her own. Our journey into the unknown now takes us below the Earth's surface, into the labyrinthine passages of a remote cave system in Utah. Two friends, John and David, experienced cavers, were on an expedition, eager to map out a section of the caves that had never been explored before. They had been exploring for hours, carefully making their way through narrow passages and vast caverns, when they stumbled upon a narrow tunnel, barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through. Intrigued and always up for a challenge, John and David decided to investigate. The air grew thick and stale, heavy with the smell of damp earth and something else, something ancient and unsettling. Then, John froze, his blood turning to ice. He could hear something breathing behind him. Chapter 4. The Thing That Wasn't There. Our next story takes us to the frozen wilderness of Alaska, where a seasoned hunter named Mike found himself facing something he could never have imagined. Mike had been hunting in these woods for years, and he knew every inch of the terrain, but this encounter was like nothing he had ever experienced. Mike was tracking a deer, its prints fresh in the snow, leading him deeper into the woods. Just as he was about to give up for the day, he spotted it. A large buck, its antlers silhouetted against the fading light. But it wasn't the deer's eyes that sent a shiver down Mike's spine. It was the fact that the deer was now standing on two legs. And it was smiling. Chapter 5. The Screaming Silence. Our journey into the heart of darkness now takes us to the depths of the Amazon rainforest, where a documentary film crew found themselves at the mercy of something sinister lurking in the shadows. The crew, led by experienced filmmaker Lisa, was there to document the indigenous wildlife and the rich biodiversity of the region. They had set up camp deep in the jungle, far from any known settlements, their cameras ready to capture the wonders of this unexplored corner of the world. The days were filled with the sounds of exotic birds and the rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, but it was the nights that held a different kind of magic, a primal energy that sent shivers down their spines. As darkness descended, the jungle came alive with a symphony of sounds, a blood-curdling scream echoing through the trees, seemingly coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. Chapter 6. The Man in the Fog. Our next encounter takes us to the treacherous peaks of the Rocky Mountains, where a lost hiker named Greg encountered something that would haunt his dreams for years to come. Greg, an experienced hiker, had been on a solo trek, eager to challenge himself against the rugged beauty of the mountains. He had been hiking for days, enjoying the solitude and the breathtaking views, when a thick fog rolled in, blanketing the mountainside in an eerie silence. The trail, which had been clearly marked, disappeared beneath the swirling mist, and Greg soon realized he was lost. He checked his compass, but it seemed to be malfunctioning, spinning aimlessly. Panic began to set in as the fog grew thicker, obscuring everything beyond a few feet. and that's when he saw him. A figure standing in the distance, partially obscured by the fog, tall and gaunt with long, thin limbs. Chapter 7: The Phantom Footsteps. Our next story takes us to the heart of Yosemite National Park, where a family camping trip took a terrifying turn. The Johnson family, eager to escape the hustle and bustle of city life, decided to spend a week exploring the park's natural wonders. They set up camp in a secluded spot, surrounded by towering trees and the soothing sounds of nature. But on the fourth night, something strange happened. They woke to the sound of something moving around their campsite. At first they dismissed it as a raccoon or a squirrel, but as the noises grew louder they realized something was wrong. Our journey into the unknown now takes us to the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, where a survivalist, documenting his solo adventures for his online followers, captured something truly unsettling on camera. Jake, an experienced outdoorsman, had been living off the land for a week, building shelters, foraging for food, and sharing his skills and experiences with his viewers. He had chosen a remote location, deep in the woods, far from any trails or civilization. On the last night of his trip, as he was settling down in his makeshift shelter, he noticed something strange. It was subtle at first, a flicker of movement in the darkness beyond the reach of his campfire. He paused, listening intently, his senses on high alert. That's when he saw them, two glowing eyes peering at him from the darkness, their intensity sending shivers down his spine. Our next encounter takes us to the ancient and mysterious Appalachian Mountains, where a lone backpacker named David experienced something that would forever change his perception of the wilderness. David, an avid hiker, was on a multi-day trek through the mountains, eager to escape the pressures of everyday life and reconnect with nature. He had been hiking for days, following a well-worn trail that snaked its way through dense forests and across babbling streams. As the sun began to set, he found a secluded clearing and set up camp for the night. As darkness enveloped the forest, David retreated to his tent, zipping himself inside, seeking refuge from the cool night air. Just as he was drifting off to sleep, he heard it. A whisper. Our final and perhaps most unsettling encounter takes us to the vast and unforgiving wilderness of Canada, where a group of experienced hikers disappeared under mysterious circumstances. The group, 4 friends who had been hiking together for years, set off on a week-long expedition into a remote area of the Canadian Rockies, eager to challenge themselves against the rugged beauty of the landscape. They were well prepared for their trip, with maps, compasses, and enough supplies to last them for weeks. They had charted their course carefully, planning to hike deep into the wilderness, far from any known trails or settlements. On the 5th night, as they were setting up camp near a secluded lake, a strange feeling settled over them. The air grew heavy, and an unnatural silence descended upon the forest. The wilderness holds many secrets, some of which may never be explained. Whether you're hiking, camping, or just exploring, always be aware of your surroundings. Because sometimes the scariest things aren't just stories, they're warnings. If you've ever experienced something terrifying in the wild, let us know in the comments. And if you dare, subscribe for more bone-chilling stories. See you in the next video, if you make it back.